A vampire has a quiet life, with video games, anime, and manga, basically an otaku. This vampire's name is Staz. He lives in the demonic world, and he is also the leader of the district where he lives, hoping to meet humans for their magnificent creations, referring to video games, anime, and manga. While he was enjoying his video games, he receives a call from his subordinates. A human had been found in the area. The protagonist gets too excited, and orders to bring her immediately. When he meets this girl, he feels that he may lose his sanity. Let's remember that he is a vampire, and the girl is a human woman. When he is about to drink the woman's blood, he is interrupted by an intruder. The intruder is easily defeated by the protagonist, but he did not count on that one of his offspring would end up killing the human girl. The protagonist cannot believe it. Her time to suck blood was over. When the same girl suddenly appears, one of their subordinates explains that this human girl had become a ghost because she had died in the demonic world, which is why he was no longer attracted to her. The protagonist was left with the desire to suck blood, so he promises that he will revive it, by all means. This girl is called Fuyumi. She shows him the portal through which she came to this world. She wants to return to her world, but first they consult a clairvoyant girl to see if they can travel in a calm way. She tells them that there is no problem and they go to the human world. The two arrive in the human world, and obviously, since the protagonist is an otaku, he ends up photographing everything around him. In the institute, Fuyumi wants to continue with her normal life, but she is interrupted with something abnormal. Her body was disappearing. The protagonist explains that as she was a low-ranking demon, she could not support herself, so the protagonist shares a little of his blood with her. The boys want to return to the demon world because Staz, feeling that the sun of this world was affecting him, since he is a vampire. When they are about to return, they meet a girl. This girl is called Belle. She asks him if they had been the ones who had stolen this portal of hers. Obviously, the protagonists tell them that they do not know anything of what he says. She explains that she is a space traveler, and that she can travel to the place she wants. She travels all the worlds in search of treasures, and that her portal had been stolen, wanting to find the culprit to be her husband. While Staz was fighting an ogre, Fuyumi tells this traveler that the protagonist wanted to revive her. Belle says that a long time ago she had a book on how to revive humans, but she had sold it somewhere in the Western demon world. The boys returned to the demonic world. As Staz was willing to revive Fuyumi, they went to look for the happy book. After an intense journey in a cart, the protagonist meets an old friend. His name is Wolf. He asks if he can help him find a book, but it turns out that his friend tells him that he will only help him if he wins a boxing match. The protagonist accepts and begins the fight. They have an interesting fight, but are interrupted by the traveler. She tells them enough is enough and hands the book to the protagonist. This traveler explains that they don't need to fight anymore. It turns out that she had forced them to fight indirectly, because she knew about Wolf's behavior and that the book was always in her hands. After reviewing the book, they are surprised that they do not understand it, so they decide to look for the author of the book to understand the content, learning that he is the brother of the protagonist. Staz begins to remember his past, being very fearful. Belle creates a portal so that he can go to see his brother. As Staz did not want to go see his brother, he is forced to go for his friend. As the portal had not been finished, the protagonist ends up in Belle's room. They enter more in confidence, and the protagonist ends up telling him about his past, where his brother did experiments with him. In the end, he did not want that life. He ended up fleeing from the Acropolis. After his talk, the protagonist is transported to the Acropolis, remembering that only people who control the lower world live here. While trying to sneak to his brother's house, he ends up meeting his little sister, being imprisoned in a prison thanks to the power of his sister. On the other hand, Fuyumi was disappearing parts of her body, being taken to a clandestine doctor so that she remains alive. The next day, the brother of the protagonist goes to visit him in jail. The protagonist asks him if his book is real and if he can revive humans. The brother says yes, and if he wants to know how, he will have to do him a favor. And to have a better performance, his brother had released a bullet that the protagonist had in the chest that restricted his powers. On the other hand, Fuyumi felt very bad, and his presence disappeared easily. The clandestine doctor tells him that his recovery will be very difficult, and with many expenses in materials, the doctor will help them with a condition. The doctor asks Wolf, who has to destroy a creation of his that runs free in the demonic world. Thanks to the help of the traveling girl, Wolf arrives where this evil creation is. Wolf and this creature have a very close fight, but since this creature does not feel pain, it cannot last long in the fight. When someone from heaven arrives, it was Staz. The protagonist tells him that it is his time to shine and show what vampires are made of. Obviously, the protagonist defeats this threat very easily and thus fulfilling the favor that his brother had requested. The two brothers of Staz arrive on the Earth's surface to take the body of this abominable creation. The brother of the protagonist wants to fulfill his promise, so he ends up taking an essence of Fuyumi's soul in order to revive her. Her brother tells her that the procedure to revive her will take many days, so they will have to wait, and that Staz continues to feed Fuyumi with her blood so that she does not disappear. His brother says goodbye to them so that he can prepare for the resurrection. As he will be very busy, he asks him to take care of his little sister. The little girl does not get used to this new life, but thanks to Fuyumi her life becomes easier. After a few days of tranquility, Fuyumi disappears. During the search, they find nothing related to her. Her little sister offers to seek help, returning to Acropolis for her older brother. The protagonist had contacts throughout his area, and had been able to locate a suspicious person who had never seen him in that territory. Asking around, the protagonist gets a photo of the person who had kidnapped Fuyumi, but he still didn't know where she was. While searching in other territories, the protagonist meets a person who has great knowledge. Staz shows him the photo of the suspect and asks him if he has seen him. This man explains that this person lives in a dimensional utopia, and that if he is going to that area, you never return. While Staz was heading to that area, he finds the person in the photo wanting to capture him immediately, but it turns out that the one who had taken Fuyumi was Belle's brother. This boy could also use space travel. Belle can imagine that his mother loves this girl, so he decides to stop the protagonist by taking him to his space room. Fuyumi was being moved to a strange place, hoping nothing bad would happen to her. Staz is in Belle's room. They have a bet where the protagonist wins, being forced to take him where Fuyumi is. Fuyumi is in a huge castle, and with good luxuries, she is prepared to be presented before a woman. When Belle arrives with the vampire, the three boys prepare to meet this woman. Inside the room, the woman welcomes them and hugs Fuyumi, recognizing her as her daughter. The boys do not understand how it is possible that this woman is a mother with different daughters. Belle's mother explains to them that when she traveled to the human world, she met her doppelganger and ended up merging with Fuyumi's mother, and now the two people live in one person. The protagonist asks something improper and ends up being sent to a dragon. The dragon explains that when the two women merged, she did not know which man to stay with. That is why Fuyumi's father asked that his daughter remain human in exchange for lose his wife. That is why Belle's father was willing to help him revive Fuyumi, so that he can fulfill his promise to keep Fuyumi human. That is why he leaves him out of the house for the two of them to go away from the clutches of Belle's mother and also Fuyumi's mother. Staz asks Fuyumi if she wants to be revived. She answers yes. The protagonist responds if she wants a hero, he will be willing to become one so that she can be revived. Crossing the gate exit. Ending the anime. Then the protagonist had many adventures. They fought with many monsters, the protagonists kissed, and in the end Fuyumi revives. She went to live in the world of humans, and Staz became her high school companion to protect her. An end.